And welcome to marvellous Malaysia, and I use those words advisedly. I haven't enjoyed a Grand Prix so much for years, and we haven't even had the race yet. Just look at that incredible situation here at Sepang. You heard me talking about it with great enthusiasm earlier on, and Martin too, about the track and the facilities here. I remember when we went to Melbourne for the first year, we were totally overwhelmed. And it's been exactly the same sort of experience here with, I have to say, an even greater emphasis, because the permanent buildings, the charm of the Malaysian people has been a wonderful experience. And now we've got this prospect of an absolutely incredible motor race. Ferrari on the front row of the grid. Michael Schumacher back, a second faster than anyone else. Everyone is saying, yes, but is he going to be fit? I'll tell you, the track temperature as I talk to you, and Michael Schumacher sits in the car there, is 43 degrees. The air temperature is 30 degrees. Yesterday afternoon during qualifying, and we're getting towards that time now, the track temperature rose to 48 degrees. It's mighty, mighty hot out there, and it's going to call for a great deal of stamina.
Certainly is. Feels incredibly cool walking in this commentary box, which is air-conditioned. Out on the grid, it's just absolutely baking hot. And, of course, Hakkinen, the only one down there on the harder of the race tyres, but I don't think it's going to make an awful lot of odds this afternoon, unless it rains somewhere in the middle of the race. But even then it'll be different to how it was in Nürburgring, because the track, even when it's raining here, is still at least 25 degrees centigrade. There's just a lot of heat around here. The cars don't even have heaters in them here, just coolers, don't they, the road cars? So to give you an idea of the kind of humidity and heat that they're going to go through down there. Michael says he's fit. He said in the press conference yesterday after qualifying, look, I'm sweating less than Eddie. I think I'm more than fit enough, thank you very much. I did 40 laps both days here. I seem fine, my neck's fine, no problems with that. But whichever way you look at it, this is quite a demanding circuit mentally and very much so physically. So I think it's going to be a tough race, and I think we're in for maybe one or two surprises. I've just got a feeling Hakkinen, Murray, is going to pull something out of the bag that didn't look possible in qualifying, because they were 3/4 of a second off the pace of the Ferraris, the real pace. And I think this morning in the warm-up, it looked different to me. So.
Yeah. If we cast our minds back to last year, the last race but one last year was the Luxembourg Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, and Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher were level on points after the Italian Grand Prix. And Mika Hakkinen pulled one of the drives of his life out of the bag. It was absolutely marvellous, and that was a situation then when Michael Schumacher was in pole position and Eddie Irvine, his teammate, was second on the grid. So the situation was absolutely identical. And we've been talking about whether or not Mika Hakkinen is going to be able to stand up to the pressure. He's been an even doorer Mika Hakkinen than usual here, looking quite downcast. But we've had plenty of evidence in the past that he can do what he has to do when he has to do it. Fourth on the grid. There's no doubt about the fact that Schumacher will ultimately defer to Irvine if he has to and if he's able to. And there's no doubt at all that Coulthard will defer to Mika Hakkinen. So we're facing the situation of Schumacher versus Hakkinen, with Coulthard and Irvine challenging very hard indeed. And the World Championship is mighty close.
This question of team games and deferring to your teammate and all that for the benefit of extra points. Remember, McLaren got into a lot of hot water for doing that in Melbourne 1998. It's sort of been clarified since then. You can do it as long as it's not against the sporting image of Formula One. And I think they still all have to be quite cautious about how they play this.
And away they go. A great burst of power from the Ferrari. And down to turn one. This, of course, is the formation lap. There are going to be 56 racing laps of this Malaysian Grand Prix to decide or get very near the World Championship.
Good picture there, just how far it is from the start line down to that first corner. So they'll have quite a head of speed when they get down there, Murray. And braking very late, as ever. Front tyres and the brakes not up to maximum or normal operating temperatures, and there could be more than a few scares down there. We said that at the last Grand Prix in Nürburgring, and remember what happened with Dinitz upside down and all sorts of things. This looks an equally difficult circuit. You saw a few things bouncing along the track there in the previous shot. That's dry ice falling out of some of the cars that's put in the radiator pods before they go around on this lap to try to keep the temperatures down. And there's one that didn't make it already.
And it's Jarno Trulli who is not even starting the race. He'll have to get that car out of the way. He was going to be 18th, and it's ironic you saying that, Martin, because the Prost cars have been having all sorts of problems with overheating.
There's two black marks behind that Prost where clearly the engine's just seized solid and locked the rear tyres up, and that's why Trulli's jumped out of it. They can, I would have thought, quite easily get that car out of the way before the Grand Prix gets underway. They've got to make their way slowly now around to the start. They sit on the start usually 40-45 seconds, and they should clear that car of Trulli's. But remember, of course, they can't put it into neutral. It looked to me as if it might be block solid there. They're going to have to just tow it out of the way quickly.
Well, that was going to have been Jarno Trulli's last race but one for the Prost team before he joins Jordan next year. Well, he's still got Suzuka to look forward to. We've got Malaysia to look forward to as Mika Hakkinen and the two stewards, led by Johnny Herbert, dance their way across the tarmac, keeping heat in the tyres. Here is Michael Schumacher going up to pole position. Round Petronas hairpin. And those canopies are to keep the heat of the sun off the 30,000 spectators that can fill that grandstand.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the best views of Formula One up from that grandstand, very near our commentary box actually, but out the back you can see virtually all of the racetrack. It's a superb viewing facility there.
So hopefully Jarno Trulli will be well and truly out of the way. There is the Prost garage, and a very disappointing people in it because Jarno Trulli rushing back to get in the spare car.
Yes, I don't think he's going to make it in time. Obviously they've got to try and prepare it, but I can't see how Trulli, unless he can find a motorcycle rider or something to get him back, will get back in time. But I have to say, those McLarens look more comfortable, the two drivers more comfortable this morning than at any other time this weekend. Let's hope they can give those two Scarlet cars on the front row more than a run for their money.
Right, so Michael Schumacher on the right of your picture, David Coulthard behind him. Eddie Irvine is on the left, Mika Hakkinen behind him. And David Coulthard's got to try and get in front of the Ferraris by the first corner. Go in Malaysia, and it's a good start by Michael Schumacher, who moves across the track. Eddie Irvine holds his second position, and Hakkinen and Coulthard are behind, and Hakkinen is already on the inside. And there's a steward coming up, and round the outside of them goes Alexander Wurz, but he's dropped his position back to about 7th position in the peloton. So Schumacher is exactly where he wants to be. They're fighting for positions behind him, but the Ferraris are first and second. Good news for Maranello.
Yes, we think Damon Hill may be out in the Jordan already. We'll wait for a replay of that. But Hakkinen was the one having to defend quite aggressively against the steward, I would assume, is Barrichello. But at the moment, they're away, 1, 2, 3, 4, as they started on the grid.
Yes, it's two Ferraris, two McLarens, and there is Damon Hill out of the race. So Jarno Trulli will be starting hopefully from the pit lane, although he may be so late in getting back that it's just not worth his while. Damon Hill retires, and Michael Schumacher leads in Malaysia from his teammate Eddie Irvine. Now the next here's a replay. Let's see what happens to Damon Hill. There he is, he's spun round. It looks to me as though he was nudged up the back by probably Fisichella, who's also spinning.
Yes, I think it was Fisichella running into the back of Damon there. Between 1 and 2, Damon really bottled up, couldn't go anywhere. Fisichella clearly not making any allowance for the fact that it's the first lap, and they're just running into the back of him. Poor driving there from Fisichella. We're back on track, and look at the lead Schumacher's got already, and it's Coulthard putting Irvine under pressure into the last turn as they start their first full and flying lap.
Yep, so there are still 55 laps to go. Michael Schumacher leads, Eddie Irvine second. Now the question is, what are their strategies? Another spinner in the background there. It's one of the Sauber cars. Didn't see whether it was a Lacey or Deniz.
But the question now is, what strategies are Schumacher, Irvine, Häkkinen and Coulthard on? David Coulthard in third position. We think he's going to stop twice, and therefore he needs to get ahead of the Ferrari. And Mika Häkkinen, we think, is going to stop once, but time will tell. Meantime, Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart is giving Mika Häkkinen a very hard time. You're looking now at Irvine and Coulthard, but behind them are the second McLaren and the Stewart.
Irvine getting slightly out of shape. They're allowing Coulthard to close. Coulthard appears to have the pace on Irvine, wide again, but Coulthard appears to have the pace on Irvine, and it's Barrichello there chasing those pair of McLaren. So Barrichello showing tremendous speed in the warm-up this morning. Some talk that he was on one-stop fuel. Really, I'm understanding that stopping twice for fresh tyres and keeping the fuel load down a little bit is clearly the fastest, but maybe from a strategy point of view, some of these will try one-stopper. I would personally be surprised.
Well, no doubt about Schumacher's speed. Look at it, 1.7 lead at the end of the first lap. We're on the second lap now, out of 56. And there is the Benetton of Fisichella, who spun with Damon Hill on that first lap. They're getting him back into the race. I suspect, having put a new nose cone on, they're waving their hands. It looks as though he's out of the race.
I think somebody else then whacked into the back of Fisichella and spun him around. Wouldn't surprise me at all if the rear wishbones are not damaged or something on that left rear corner, because they're not structured to work with that kind of loading, and they break rather easily.
Well, Schumacher putting away. He's doubled his lead almost in the second lap to 3.1 seconds. But you can see for yourselves what a battle there is behind him. As Eddie Irvine runs wide again, Coulthard does not close up on that occasion. Häkkinen is still there in fourth position. Barrichello is sixth. Johnny Herbert fifth. Johnny Herbert is in sixth position. 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, 2 Stewarts. That's how it started on the grid. That's how it was in the warm-up this morning. Alexander, we're riding with Johnny Herbert now, and it's out of turn 4 up to the sweeping left-hander at turn 5, 135 miles an hour, building speed.
Yes, an indication of how much fuel they've got on board is Herbert there actually downshifting, whereas in qualifying they were just blending a little bit of brake and keeping the throttle well down through there. So Johnny Herbert actually having to downshift, that's surprising. And Häkkinen appears now to have gained a little bit of speed and started to move up onto the back of Coulthard and just gently, ever so gently, dropping this man, Barrichello.
So watch the race and I'll hypothesise about when they come in. If it's a one-stopper, it'll be about half distance, and that would be round about lap 28. If it's a two-stopper, which seems most likely for most of them, it'll be round about laps 19 and 18, but they could move those stops quite a lot depending on how they want to go on fuel load.
I suspect Michael Schumacher made a mistake somewhere. We haven't seen it, but he's lost 1.4 seconds to Eddie Irvine in the mid-section of this lap, and you can see, look, how much he's closed up on him.
Indeed you can, Ferrari. This is into lap 4. And it's much closer together than they very often are in Grand Prix these days. But in sixth position, Johnny Herbert is dropping back a bit.
Now watch Irvine's line through this second corner. We're not going to say we're watching. I think Eddie just chooses to take that wider run. He definitely went too wide the lap before, but it looks like he's got a problem and suddenly sweeps back down. He's quite happy there's a little bit more grip out there for him and his car. And there's a Williams in the pits. Very, very early stop, of course. That looks like Zanardi. So away Zanardi goes, but he was running down in 16th place in any event.
Yeah, started 16th. He hasn't improved, sadly, here in Malaysia in comparison with his teammate Ralf Schumacher, as Eddie Irvine can now see Michael Schumacher, who takes a calm look in his mirror, actually getting closer and closer.
Look, Schumi's going to let him through, look. Schumacher lets Eddie Irvine through. That's why... Eddie, don't go and outbreak yourself, Eddie, but Michael, that's why he had this slower pace in the last lap. I don't think he has a problem, Murray. I think he was just backing off now to do... I think he just said, look, that's how fast I could go. Now I'm going to do my job and support the team. But Coulthard is well over the back of him, look.
This confirms, in my opinion, my view that Eddie Irvine is on a two-stop strategy, and if Michael Schumacher, who I think is on a one-stopper, can delay potential two-stopper David Coulthard, are you still with me, then it is going to be very much to Eddie Irvine's advantage. And Mika Häkkinen needs to get ahead of Coulthard, he needs to get ahead of Michael Schumacher, and he's not doing so. In fact, Rubens Barrichello is catching the McLaren.
Yes, well, Schumacher's going to try and back the two McLarens up now into the Stewart. So I think what's got to happen now is Coulthard's either got to have a quick punt at passing Schumacher and getting after Irvine, or let Häkkinen through and then start defending the back of Mika Häkkinen. So Coulthard having a look early. Oh, he's touched Schumacher. Coulthard touched Schumacher. Can Häkkinen get through at the same time? No, he can't. Did Coulthard damage either his or Schumacher's car? Look, and Häkkinen's got to run up into the braking area of turn 4. Mika braking very early there, so look, and Mick is getting dangerously close underneath the rear wing of Michael Schumacher's car. Schumacher backing off now to play the team game, and does he have some kind of problem already? Because he really is off the pace.
It doesn't matter too much if David Coulthard has got ahead of Michael Schumacher in comparison to Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen's the man who's got to make progress, and here we go, here's a replay. Now let's have a look and see what happens as David Coulthard really attacks Michael Schumacher, dives up the inside, and Schumacher has to give way. He was either going to have to hit the McLaren, maybe he remembered Villeneuve in Jerez in 1997 when they made contact, and Schumacher went out and Villeneuve won the championship.
Well, we saw Schumacher's pace in the early part of this race. It surprises me that he's started playing the team game so early. Now, if he had that kind of genuine speed, he should be able to cruise straight back up onto the back of Coulthard, because releasing Coulthard means he can get after Irvine and start giving him some bother. The guy losing out in all of this is Häkkinen, of course, in fourth place, because he's got to treat Michael Schumacher's Ferrari like it's the back end of an angry mule.
Yeah, and Michael Schumacher won't be at all respectful if and when Mika Häkkinen comes up alongside him. We're now into lap 6 in this 56-lap race. Irvine leads, Coulthard second. There is the change. Michael Schumacher in third place ahead of Mika Häkkinen. Rubens Barrichello is fifth, just 0.8 of a second behind Häkkinen, and 2 seconds ahead of Johnny Herbert, sixth. Alexander Wurz is down the road, 3 seconds in seventh place, and Ralf Schumacher is once again driving an absolute storm of a race as Luca Badoer in the Minardi stops. He did quite well by his standards in qualifying though.
Well, Irvine sets a new fastest lap, but Coulthard's responded already. He's dropped Schumacher a little bit, and he's already 0.4 of a second up on this lap, is David Coulthard. And here goes Coulthard. Now, they say he's not very aggressive on a racetrack. That looked plenty aggressive enough to me.
Yeah.
Michael, super professional, saw it coming, and that's not easy to know in a corner like that. Realised, a sixth sense told him Coulthard was coming through. It's like I said before, Coulthard either had to get past that the Ferrari and get after Irvine and have a couple of really good goes at it, or let Häkkinen have a go, and Coulthard's really made that one stick nicely.
Well, if I'm right, and I certainly don't know that I am, we've got the two potential two-stoppers at the front. Eddie Irvine, the winner in Austria, the winner in Germany, the winner in Australia, the man who is second in the World Championship by just 2 points behind Mika Häkkinen. And Häkkinen is in fourth place, as here is another replay, and it's Luca Badoer coming together with Pedro Diniz, or is it Alesi, in the... Oh, and he spins right in front of him.
Just a little love kiss there, no major problems for either of them, excepting this man Badoer is facing the wrong way.
Fastest lap of the race to David Coulthard, 1 minute 43.227. No point in trying to compare it with last year's, because there wasn't a Malaysia Grand Prix last year. But in comparison with the pole position time of Michael Schumacher, it's about 3.6 seconds slower. Quite understandable. They're on a comparatively heavy fuel load in relation to qualifying, even though, as I say, I think Coulthard there is on a two-stopper. So Irvine leading by 1.5 seconds. Schumacher in third position, 2 seconds behind David Coulthard, and has got Mika Häkkinen right on his tail. Just let's watch. No, he hasn't. There's a gap now between Schumacher and Häkkinen.
This is a good performance from Coulthard. He's closed Irvine down another 3/10 just in the first 3 corners of this lap. Then he's about evenly matched through this critical centre section and makes another couple of 3/10 up in the last 2 straights and corners. Coulthard this morning had easily the fastest car down all of the straights, clearly using a little less downforce, and if he can get near the back of that Ferrari, could well have, with a bit of a toe, could well have enough straight line speed to have a go into the braking areas.
Well, what a sensational job Eddie Irvine has done at Ferrari this year. 3 victories altogether. He's been on the podium umpteen times this year. He's second in points only to Mika Häkkinen. He's a potential world champion. He's leading in Malaysia, and he's keeping the gap between himself and David Coulthard as they cross the line. Now, how constant it is. 4/10 of a second. David Coulthard has taken out of Eddie Irvine on that 1 lap. And Coulthard was incredibly quick in this sector that they're in now. This is the strong point, this sector here, sector 1, which obviously starts at the beginning of the lap and goes on to just before turn 4, which they're approaching now.
Well, Coulthard clearly didn't damage his car. That's the BAR
That's Zonta. That's Ricardo Zonta out of the race. So Damon Hill out, Trulli out, and now Ricardo Zonta out.
A little bit of a barbecue happening there. Shouldn't cause any kind of safety car situation, I wouldn't imagine. I don't know exactly where it's stranded, but they ought to be able to clear that car without a safety car situation, just relying on double waved yellow flags, i.e. marshals on the racetrack.
Well, there's Zonta blowing the engine, obviously the Supertech engine letting go, and now locks up the rear wheels.
It wouldn't surprise me there's not a bit of oil down there, Mary, because it's unusual to see a car spin like that, although clearly the engine's beginning to seize up, but wouldn't surprise me at all there's not a few dregs of oil down there.
Tremendous heat. It's the track temperature has actually gone down just a little bit, just 1 degree or so, but it's still in the 40-degree area as Eddie Irvine comes down the Penang Straight, and that is Ralf Schumacher. There's another one out. My goodness, they're going out like flies now. Ralf Schumacher, who was in 9th position, following Jean Alesi and heading Jacques Villeneuve out of the race in the Williams, to the disappointment of the Williams crew in the garage there. And look at David Coulthard now. He's closed the gap down again from 1.4 seconds to 1.1 seconds, and now to 6/10 of a second. Yeah. Eddie Irvine has got a major problem on his hands now, and he can see that McLaren in his mirrors.
Yeah, certainly has, hasn't it? It's the first section and the last. It took a full half second out of Irvine in the last section, which is basically 2 long straights and the last left-hander. So Coulthard has got a very fast motor car underneath him at the moment.
Let's talk about Häkkinen, Martin. 4th position, 4 seconds behind Irvine. Does this mean he's on a heavy fuel load? Does it mean he's stopping once compared with the others twice?
Don't know. I'm surprised if he's on a 1-stopper, then he's going just about fast enough. I would be surprised if he takes that tactic, but you know, you don't know what they're planning with both cars. This is a different race to normal. We've got 4 drivers here effectively working for just 2 of them, so tactics and strategy could be pretty complex and may well change as the race unfolds. And well, here's Ralf going off. Look, gets in a bit deep into what I think is turn 7, and well, swaps ends, and no way back from there.
All this has been a big help to Heinz-Harald Frentzen. You just see him disappearing in the background there in the Seoul Jordan, because he's now in 10th position, and Louise Goodman is with Damon Hill.
Damon, I know they've been frantically trying to fix Giancarlo Fisichella's Benetton. It was a terrible blow for you, though. A mistake by the Italian?
Well, I don't know who it was, but I felt a big bang up the backside on the second corner, and that was it.
What are the conditions out there like today? I mean, it's very hot. How's that going to affect the drivers?
I couldn't tell you. I wasn't out there long enough.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Nice one, Damon. And here comes Eddie Irvine, followed by David Coulthard. There is Michael Schumacher, and I don't know if Mika Häkkinen is trying to attack. If he is, he's not making any difference. He's still over 1.5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Let me just fill you in very quickly on the top 10 now. Barrichello and Herbert are 5th and 6th, and in 7th position is Wurz in the leading Benetton. Alesi is 8th in the Sauber. 9th is Jacques Villeneuve as a result of the retirement of Ralf Schumacher, and in 10th position, he started 14th, is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Well, he's a potential world champion, but a long way down now. He's 12 points behind Hakkinen at the present moment, and he's not even in the points in this race. Lap 10, 56-lap race, Irvine, Coulthard. There's the gap back to Michael Schumacher in the second Ferrari. There is the gap back to Mika Hakkinen in the second McLaren. And behind Mika Hakkinen, Rubens Barrichello is less than 1.5 seconds down the track. Now, the track has been getting rubbered up very nicely as a result of the 2 sessions of practice on Friday, the 2 sessions on Saturday and qualifying, and then the half-hour warm-up this morning. So there'll be a lot more grip, but we just don't know what is going to happen with tyres in this heat over this length of race.
No, we certainly don't, but Irvine is partly comfortable. He's managed to, unusual game of chess this, he's managed to position his king, that's Michael Schumacher, to protect him from Mika Hakkinen. That gives him a 7-point advantage at the moment at this stage of the race in the point scoring system. But his real problem right now is Coulthard homing in on him. The gap has stabilised about 6 or 7 tenths of a second. Irvine's responded slightly, although I have to say Coulthard does look a little bit closer there still.
David's objective, presumably, Martin, must be to pressure Eddie Irvine so much that the Irishman makes a mistake and goes off.
Yes, ideally, preferably for David. If not, he's going to have to risk his car, pass Irvine and reverse him up, just like Michael Schumacher, where he's positioned now, keeping Hakkinen nicely at bay. Although he's not having to work, in fairness, he's not really having to work too hard at that, is he?
No, and this is a tribute, incidentally, to what Ferrari have done as we ride now with David Coulthard looking ahead at Eddie Irvine as they come up to, now where are they on the circuit? They're just approaching turn 9. It's a very tricky, very tight left-hander with a climbing exit, followed by a right-hander, which they take at about 135 miles an hour.
Well, that's a classic piano accordion effect you're seeing there in a slow corner. You're convinced you're catching the guy ahead in the braking area. He, of course, gets on the throttle pedal sooner than you do, and then he pulls away again, and he's sort of yo-yoing around in those slow corners.
I'm sorry, Martin, Mika Hakkinen is on the bugle now. He's done a fastest first sector. He's gone faster in the second sector than he's ever been before, and here is the result. You can see it in the background as we see Irvine and Coulthard. Michael Schumacher is 2.6 seconds behind Coulthard, but Mika Hakkinen is starting to challenge. Irvine, P1, that's the Ferrari board saying you are in first place, as if he didn't know.
David dancing around in the background there, if nothing else other than to annoy Eddie Irvine. Not too much love lost between these two. They've been having a fair old verbal battle through the air, trading insults, and well, in the press conference, Coulthard says, well, it's no doubt Michael's a lot better driver than Eddie Irvine. He's come back and blown his doors off by a second a lap, and that kind of trading, it's a pretty normal sort of chat before you get in the boxing ring, I think.
I was talking about what a fantastic job Ferrari have done since the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. It looks like a different team, and it's primarily because of the return of Michael Schumacher. Because where before, even though the team was doing so well with Eddie Irvine, 3 times a winner this year, you felt that they were missing the support of Michael Schumacher and the drive of Schumacher. Well, it's back here, and with Ron Dennis there watching the screens in front of him, Ferrari are on a real high. You could see it from the way the mechanics were walking about the pit lane. You could see it from the way that Ross Broad was responding to questions. And Eddie Irvine, of course, is the beneficiary. He's used to working with Michael Schumacher, where he wasn't used to working with Mika Salo, and they make a mighty powerful combination when it comes to setting up a motor car. We're on lap 12 out of 56.
He won't be thinking about it right now, but Coulthard will be ruining his mistake at the Nürburgring, because he could be fighting this man Irvine for his own world championship, of course. And but now he's out there doing a good job for McLaren and for Hakkinen, because at the moment he's Hakkinen's best chance. Hakkinen can't get down the road at Irvine. He's hoping Coulthard can. The gap is now down to 0.3 of a second, and Hakkinen taking half a second out of Michael Schumacher too. It seems as the tyres are wearing down, it seems like the McLarens are a little bit happier, Murray.
Yeah, the Bridgestone people told me this morning that the wear in the warm-up half hour, when it wasn't nearly as hot as it is now, was much greater than they had expected. They've got two compounds here, what they call the soft and the super soft. Everybody's on the super soft at the moment, except one man. And that one man is Mika Hakkinen in fourth place, challenging Michael Schumacher. But Barrichello is a man to watch too, in fifth position in the Stewart, followed by his teammate Johnny Herbert. It's still in the points, 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, 2 Stewarts, and then the top non-Stewart Ferrari McLaren is Alex Wout, 7th.
Barrichello hanging on gamely. When we talk about soft, we're talking about the compound of the rubber, the chemicals used to make the rubber a bit softer and give a bit more grip, but then tends to go off a little earlier or wear out a little bit faster. Good time to take a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
And as you watch Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Pedro Diniz in the Jordan and the Sauber battling for 10th position, I can tell you that there's no changes at the front, but I can also tell you that 2 people are starting to charge, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, new fastest lap of the race as Diniz there has a go down the inside of Frentzen. I don't know whether he made a stick. This one's a Lacey, but we were watching Diniz, so before we cut away to this onboard shot, that was back for 10th and 11th, Diniz and Frentzen. Frentzen, of course, in with a shot of the World Championship, still not having a great weekend. New lap record, new fastest lap for Michael Schumacher, a 1:42.6. So clearly he's decided now he needs to close that gap back to David Coulthard, who's harrying Eddie Irvine just 0.4 of a second behind him in the lead.
Well, as you look at Alexander Wurz in the light blue Benetton being pursued by Jean Alesi for 8th position, here are the gaps on lap 15. Eddie Irvine 0.4 of a second ahead of David Coulthard, who, pressure as he may, cannot get past the Ferrari. Michael Schumacher is starting to close the gap in 3rd position, down to David Coulthard, who is 2nd. 2 seconds is the gap. He is nearly 2 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen, who is being caught by Rubens Barrichello. Very slowly, but it's happening. And Barrichello is now the quickest man on the track.
There's a McLaren on the pit straight. It must be Coulthard. There's a McLaren somewhere coasting. Look, McLaren missing out of this picture. Coulthard is coasting. Coulthard's car has failed, maybe. I don't think he's gone off, but I'm hearing through my radio that Coulthard is coasting.
Well, that is a sensational development because, yes, Rubens Barrichello is definitely up into 4th position and the fastest man in the race. There is David Coulthard out of the Malaysian Grand Prix on lap 16, which halves the challenge to the Ferrari team and which halves the potential points that McLaren could get in this vital struggle for the Constructors' Championship. When this race started, they were 8 points ahead of Ferrari. Now they've only got 1 car in the top 3. Ferrari have got 2 cars in the top 3. And Ferrari are on a potential 16 World Championship points to a potential 4 for McLaren. Now, it's very early days for me to make any prophecies, and I'm certainly not going to do so. But with Eddie Irvine up there now, 3 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher, with Mika Häkkinen seemingly not able to do anything about the Ferrari of the double world champion Michael Schumacher ahead of him, and with Rubens Barrichello charging up through the field now in 4th place, Johnny Herbert in 5th place, Alexander Wurz in the Benetton moves into the points in 6th position, and 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th are Alesi, Villeneuve, Fredson and Pedro Diniz. And we look down the straight, and there is David Coulthard coasting in the McLaren, and his race finishing.
Well, that plays into Ferrari's hands in every respect, really. They're clearly a 1-2 now again, with Schumacher nicely placed to defend against Häkkinen. Plus, they're only 8 points behind in the Constructors' Championship, and currently they're on 16, and McLaren just on 4.
Well, great news for Eddie Irvine, but James Allen has got news.
I'm in the McLaren garage, and you know that expression, the sinking feeling. That's what's just come over 42 McLaren employees sitting in this garage. Let's not lose sight of the objectives here today. Mika Häkkinen has to finish in front of Eddie Irvine and vice versa. And one thing I've learned here is that these soft tyres through the weekend, they tended to go off between laps 2 and 10. That's what Schumacher, Irvine and Coulthard were on. Häkkinen, of course, on the harder tyres. He's not taken advantage of that period when the super soft tyres were not really at their best. And now you're starting to see Schumacher pick the pace up, also Irvine as well. Schumacher can protect Irvine. It's going to be very difficult for Mika Häkkinen.
It is, but as you're saying that, James, he's now just 7/10 of a second behind. So we know Schumacher's pace. He said that new fastest lap, which has been eclipsed by Rubens Barrichello as it happens, but Michael now backing off again, back into the path of Häkkinen.
As we ride with and look at the track from the point of view of Jean Alesi in 7th position, the car in front of him is the last potential points scorer, Alex Wurz, who's made a much better fist of the Sepang circuit at Malaysia than his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella, who by and large has been quicker than Wurz up to this race. Fisichella's in 8th position in the championship. Wurz is 13th in the championship, and Fisichella is 10 points ahead of the Austrian. But somehow or other, Fisichella just didn't get to grips with Sepang the way Wurz did, and Benetton have made quite major changes to the rear suspension of their car. But Alesi looking for glory. If he can get a World Championship point for Sauber in the Sauber team's home country, I know it's a Swiss team, but the sponsorship comes from Malaysia, and they've been putting on special demonstrations at the Petronas Towers, the tallest building in the world, and they've really got Malaysia fired up. And if Jean Alesi can get that Sauber into 6th position, he will be a national hero. As we go to a break.
There's Michael Schumacher in second place. No position changes, but Schumacher just backing them up. Irvine's been told, get on with it. A new fastest lap, a 42.0. And Schumacher is keeping Häkkinen back here at 43.5, 44, losing 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap. Barrichello says, I'm out of here. He's shot in the pit lane for probably an early stop. That's Johnny Herbert, the white car you can see in the background. Barrichello doesn't want to get caught up in these championship games that Michael Schumacher is playing by holding up Mika Häkkinen. Irvine now 8.5 seconds in the lead.
Yeah, he's just done another fastest lap of the race. 1:41, Eddie Irvine, 1:41.6. And as you say, 8.5 seconds lead. This is brilliant strategical control by the Ferrari management, led by Ross Brawn and Jean Todt. Ross Brawn is a master strategist, a master tactical man, and it is showing here. Häkkinen trying his best, but Schumacher holds it back while Irvine gets away, and Louise Goodman is with David Coulthard.
David, what stopped you?
Going into turn 14, suddenly lost power, and I'm not sure whether it's an electronic cut or whether it was something in the engine, but basically it didn't come back again, and I just had to coast to a halt.
That's a cruel, cruel blow, because you were having such a strong race up to then.
Yeah, no, it was going well. I obviously got rid of Michael quite quickly when he started playing these games. And then with Eddie, it was a question of being a little more patient, because there wasn't the need to take the same risk in passing him, because I think the length we were going in our stop, we could probably pass him at the stop anyway. Otherwise, I just wait for maybe him to make a mistake.
A big blow for the team's title hopes as well, I presume.
Yeah, it's not good, but we know that if you don't finish races, then really you don't deserve to win championships. But we're going to go out fighting, that's for sure.
Bad luck.
Well, you've seen a replay while Louise was talking to David Coulthard of Jean Alesi passing Alex Wurtz's Benetton to move up into the points for Sauber into 6th position. As we see here, Schumacher second, Häkkinen third, and behind them Rubens Barrichello into the pits, and Johnny Herbert is now in 4th position.
Well, I think this is going to play into the hands of Barrichello very nicely, with Michael backing them up. I wonder if they didn't ought to bring Mika in, who's falling back there, but bring Mika in and see if he can leapfrog Michael. But Ferrari will respond immediately and bring Michael in as well. So Häkkinen must feel like the boy in the schoolyard, and nobody will pass him the ball.
Yeah, and this won't help Mika Häkkinen's mental state. Now, obviously, he's totally concentrated on keeping the McLaren on the track and making it go as quickly as he possibly can. But if he doesn't finish this race in a strong position compared with the two Ferraris, he's going to be an even more despondent man. James has got news.
Yeah, Martin, I mean, looking at that, what if Mika Häkkinen can't come in now? What if this is well outside his fuel window and he was thinking of running much, much longer? We heard David Coulthard there talking to Louise, saying the length he could go, they thought they would pass Ferrari in the stops, pass Irvine in the stops. I just wonder whether Häkkinen hasn't got a bit of fuel in that car, and at the moment it's not prudent to bring him in so early, especially as we haven't ruled out the possibility of a little bit of rain later on.
Yes, but whatever they're doing, James, it's not working, is it? They're backing Häkkinen well out of contention. Barrichello could well leapfrog these pair. Schumacher doesn't care. He's not got a World Championship chance. And now, look, Johnny Herbert's cruising up to the back of them as well. So they might as well try and change their tactics, whatever fuel level they've got on board, do a quick stop because they've got a bit of extra fuel, and try and leapfrog Michael.
Now, let's take hats off to Michael Schumacher. There have been lots of people all over the world saying, I do not believe that Michael Schumacher will defer to Eddie Irvine. He has stoutly denied that that would ever be the case, and he has done so. And he's not only doing that, but he's acting as a true team man and holding Mika Häkkinen up as Eddie Irvine pulls away. Now 11.6 seconds in the lead as Jean Alesi from 5th position, because Villeneuve has moved up into 6th position with the pit stops.
Yes, that's because Barry, as you say, Barrichello's made his pit stop. But while David Coulthard was telling us why his McLaren stopped, you were seeing an action replay of Alesi passing Wirtz to move up into the top 6. Alesi having a great afternoon. Michael Schumacher having fun, as David Coulthard said, playing his games. And this is a worst-case scenario for Häkkinen and McLaren.
Yeah, and the question now is, from McLaren's point of view, can Michael Schumacher hack it from the point of view of finishing a 56-lap race in this heat? The track temperature now is 42 degrees. It's gone up a bit. It's certainly not going down. And this is his first race, don't forget,
full race since the French Grand Prix at the end of June. He says he's physically fit, but he obviously hasn't been able to do the leg work that he would have wanted to do normally, and he's normally the fittest man in Grand Prix racing. I would say the chances of him being fit enough are very strong indeed. And Schumacher is now having another go. Look at him, he's pulling away from Mika Häkkinen because he's just going to have done the fastest lap.
Yeah, Schumacher can drive this race with one arm tied behind his back from a fitness point of view. Now he wants to stretch out a lead. Now he's pulled out 1.2 seconds on that lap alone. He now is obviously getting ready for his pit stop. He now wants to get a big gap, 3, 4, 5 seconds if he can to Häkkinen. Just shows you the kind of pace Michael's got. We saw it at the beginning of the race. He was playing around. Coulthard caught him out. He didn't want to let Coulthard through. Coulthard got away with that one nicely. Now Michael's taking a sprint. You've got to assume they're getting ready to pit Michael Schumacher.
As Jacques Villeneuve comes into the pits from 5th position. The Canadian superstar, the world champion of 1997, who left Williams last year, a calculated risk to go to the new BAR team, which looked as though it might not be paying off as he retired from, I think, the first 11 races of the season. But now they're getting reliability. Villeneuve has always had the speed. He was up into 5th position in the points. They've yet to score a point this season. They could well do one. Get points here. Ricardo Zonta, incidentally, is out of the race. He retired very early on. Jarno Trulli was the first retirement, then Damon Hill, then Olivier Panis. Ricardo Zonta retired, as has Takagi. Ralf Schumacher is out. David Coulthard is out. Luca Badoer is out. Giancarlo Fisichella in 14th place is 3 laps adrift, 4 laps adrift, I'm sorry. So there are 13 runners left out of the 22 who started on this, the 24th lap out of 56, with no stops yet from the major contenders. Irvine still out there, Schumacher still out there and going faster and faster. He's just done a lap in just over 1 minute 40.7, which is only about 9/10 of a second slower than his pole position time.
Yes, Barrichello, he made that early stop. Remember the stunning pace he had just before he stopped. For whatever reason, he is now significantly off the pace. That hasn't worked out for him at all. Whether he's got some kind of car drama building up, I don't know. But Barrichello not making that early stop pay off at the moment.
Well, we should never forget that tyres are essentially hand-built, and you can get differences between one set of tyres and another, and often a driver will go slowly and then change tyres and go like stink because he's got a better set. Maybe that's happened to Barrichello. Anyway, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the yellow Jordan is behind him now. He started 14th, he's now in 6th position, primarily as a result of retirements and pit stops. But nevertheless, if Heinz-Harald Frentzen can get a point, it will maintain the magnificent record that he's got this year. And Johnny Herbert, incidentally, is in 4th position. Now, this is all a bit misleading. We're riding with Herbert at the moment, and he has yet to stop.
Watch this lap that Michael's now on, assuming I don't think he's going to make a stop. This is going to be some kind of stunning lap time Michael Schumacher's about to put in. He's got 2 fastest sections so far on the first, the major part of the lap, and he goes over, actually, no, that was Irvine going over the line on a 42.1. What's Michael Schumacher going to do? I think he's at 40.8, so another, so 1.3 seconds quicker than Irvine and a full second quicker than Häkkinen. Suddenly, Michael's pulled out 3.5 seconds on Mika Häkkinen.
Just 1 second slower than his pole position time with minimum fuel and ideal circumstances. Michael Schumacher is most certainly back, and he's proving again that he's lost absolutely none of his talent, none of his motivation, none of his drive. Ferrari lead on lap 25, and we're getting towards the we're getting towards the one-stop situations now. Lap 25, and I would expect the one-stoppers to be coming in on, around, or just after lap 28. Now, the people who have stopped, the significant ones, is Rubens Barrichello. All the other top 6, that's to say Irvine, Schumacher, Häkkinen, Herbert and Frentzen have yet to come in.
Ferrari mechanics out in the pit lane, so we'll wait to see which car they're expecting. So they've obviously at the moment gone for a 2-stopper, I'd imagine. with a very, very long first stint, and we're expecting the McLaren boys to dart out of the garage as well. I'm looking, there's a bridge in the way, I can't see their pit, but I can see all of the Ferrari mechanics patiently waiting for one of their cars to come in as Michael Schumacher sets another blistering midsection of the lap that he's currently on. And there is the car, and who is it? It's Irvine. Irvine, the race leader, in the pits.
So, Irvine with an 8-second lead. He should be in a pretty comfortable position. James.
Well, Murray, let's hope they give him more than 3 tyres this time. I tell you something, the Ferrari team were out in the pit lane this morning. They did 20 practice stops. Beautiful stop by Eddie Irvine, Ferrari. Nice and short, and Schumacher's pushing like mad. I think he's going to come in soon too.
New fastest lap, new lap record by Michael Schumacher, 1:40.2, and he's got a 5-second lead now over Mika Häkkinen. That's what Schumacher was doing, as we thought, getting himself a cushion ready for his stop.
So Eddie Irvine exits the pit lane with no problems at all. Lovely stop. 7.2 seconds, bang on target. Lap 26 indicating a 2-stop strategy. Michael Schumacher has carved his lead down to 2.9 seconds, of course, with that terrific lap that he has just done. And Mika Häkkinen is struggling, no doubt about it. Nearly 8 seconds behind Irvine. Johnny Herbert in 4th position, ahead of Rubens Barrichello, who has stopped for fuel and tyres. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in 6th position. 7th is Jean Alesi, followed by Wurz in the Benetton. Jacques Villeneuve, who has stopped, is down to 9th position, ahead of Pedro Diniz. And Marc Genet in the Minardi, who's gone very well here. The Spaniard in his first season of Grand Prix racing is in 11th position. The 3 remaining runners, Alex Zanardi, 12th in the Williams. Pedro de la Rosa is in 13th place in the Arrows, and Fisichella, who we've just seen exiting the pit lane, is in 14th place. 14 runners, 22 starters, lap 27.
Yes, Michael Schumacher leading the race, of course. Now he's yet to stop. Häkkinen is up into 2nd place on the road, and Johnny Herbert in 3rd place on the road. Let's see where it shook out for Irvine. I'm expecting him to be in 4th, having already made his stop, because Barrichello has lost a bucket load of pace since he came in for that early stop of his.
Well, now the question in my mind now is how long is Schumacher going to stay out and hold up Mika Häkkinen? We'll find out after the break.
more fuel in to get him to the end of the race. We'll see how that works out. And here we are back, and this is a pit stop for a Minardi, but in the background, Bado's out, must be Genet, and in the background was Michael Schumacher, current race leader, in for his stop. James.
Yes, I am here indeed, Martin. He's putting the fuel in. It looks like he's going to a one-stop. He's changing the plan. But he's putting used tyres on, which is very interesting. 10.9, absolutely consistent with the one-stop fuel load. So here's what's happened. Ferrari brought Irvine in on lap 25, a short stop. The idea being a very fast middle stint to guarantee he gets ahead of Häkkinen. McLaren reacted, a short stint for him too. Watch Häkkinen now and Irvine. They'll both be going hell for leather. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher on a one-stopper will be trying to spoil the party. What fun! This is going to be brilliant.
Indeed it is, as we watch car number 1, the world champion of 1998, Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren. So Schumacher has had his stop, Johnny Herbert has had his stop, Eddie Irvine, Häkkinen, Rubens Barrichello, just Heinz Harald Frentzen, and the top 6 have yet to come in. And Mika Häkkinen in that 3rd position. Well, the Finn, as James Allen has said, has certainly got it all to do now. A tremendously determined, experienced man. This is his 127th Grand Prix. We're on lap 29 out of 56. Michael Schumacher then has made what is clearly going to be his only stop. And in comes Alex Zanardi from 11th place. His teammate Ralf Schumacher has already retired from the Malaysian Grand Prix, and the Italian is hoping to improve on his best position so far this year, which was 7th in the Italian Grand Prix.
Yeah, dismal weekend for Williams. Ralph did a half-tidy job in qualifying, but they really, like the Jordan team, they just haven't hooked up to this challenging racetrack. Back on with Häkkinen. He's currently running 4th. The computer hasn't shaken out yet from Johnny Herbert's stop, and now it's Irvine, Schumacher, and Häkkinen will come through in 3rd place. He does indeed, just 1.8 seconds. You can see it there for yourself, just 1.8 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. And let's see who's 4th. Barrichello is 4th, Herbert just behind him in 5th, and then Frentzen now in 6th, but of course he has yet to stop, as Murray told you.
Yeah, now the interesting thing now, of course, is the positions are as they were before. Irvine, Schumacher, Häkkinen, Barrichello in 4th place, Johnny Herbert 5th. Heinz Harald Frentzen is now in the points, but he's still got to make his stop. Now, Häkkinen, I think, is going to come in again. We know Michael Schumacher is not going to come in again, and therefore Häkkinen, in order to do something about getting into 2nd place, never mind 1st, has got to get past Schumacher and still allow for time for a pit stop, and he's not going to do that, I don't think.
Well, he should have a lighter car, of course, but he can't afford to trip over Michael. We don't know just how much fuel was in that McLaren at the start of the race. That's the one great unknown when you're trying to work out strategy. But I am surprised that he wasn't stationary longer than that apparent
7.2
seconds. 7.2 you think it was. So I'm surprised Häkkinen wasn't stationary for longer than that, taking on a bit more fuel. If James is correct, when he was watching Michael Schumacher stop, you know, that Ferrari has almost certainly got enough fuel to get to the end of the race.
Well, here is Rubens Barrichello. He's had 3 podium places this year, and the Brazilian is in 4th position in the Stewart at the present moment. And you can see how close his teammate Johnny Herbert is behind him. There is Barrichello. You saw Johnny Herbert, and Heinz Harald Frentzen is only 2 seconds now behind Herbert. But I say again, the Frentzen, the German, has got to stop, whereas the Stewarts have both come in. We're on lap 31 now.
Well, this is not playing to Häkkinen at all, is it? But it's bizarre, really. Häkkinen should have had this championship tied up 4 races ago. He's had 11 pole positions this year, only translated 4 of those into race wins through mechanical problems, accidents or whatever. So Mika has not had a fortunate season, and made a couple of mistakes, of course, in Imola and Monza, fallen off the road, went while leading, lost himself 20 points. So all things added up, Häkkinen is now very much on his back foot for this World Championship. He's steering at the back of Michael Schumacher at the moment. We're not seeing it on screen. He's just 4 tenths behind Michael, who's lapping a 1.5 seconds slower than Eddie Irvine. totally intentionally.
I said apropos of Hakkinen and Coulthard's tyre choice, incidentally, for this race, with Hakkinen on the harder compound and Coulthard on the softer compound, to one of the cynics in the pit lane. They're trying to confuse the opposition, and he said, well, it makes a change for them trying to confuse themselves. A rather cruel remark. But Eddie Irvine leads on lap 31 in Malaysia, with Michael Schumacher 6.6 seconds, Ferrari on a potential 16 World Championship points, which would give them a handsome lead in the Constructors' Championship, even if Mika Hakkinen finished in third position where he is now. And more importantly, from the Drivers' Championship, it means to say that Eddie Irvine would take the lead back from Mika Hakkinen, which he lost to the Finn in the Belgian Grand Prix. But we've still got 25 laps to go. No prophecies.
They've just gone past my window and our window here, and Hakkinen just 0.4 of a second behind Michael Schumacher. That's a bit of a cheap shot at McLaren, saying about confusing themselves, because they've pretty much been the dominant team for a couple of years now and had a pretty supreme motor car. But no doubt about it, they could have and should have tied this championship up a while back.
And on lap 32, Jean Alesi is back in the points for Sauber. The little French Sicilian, very moody man, great fun, and he can just as easily, if things have gone badly, jump in his car and storm away from the circuit in a furious rage. But he's a most likeable man, and I wish him well in this race for a World Championship point for Sauber. He's only got one so far. He's down at equals 16th in the World Championship, and his teammate Pedro Diniz has got 3 times his points. And even though Diniz has improved enormously in the last couple of years and this season, I still wouldn't put him in the same class as Jean Alesi. So fingers crossed for Alesi, for Sauber, and for the Ferrari engines which they use. So Eddie Irvine on lap 32, 8.1 seconds ahead of Schumacher, who's got Mika Hakkinen right behind him. Rubens Barrichello is closing again on Mika Hakkinen. You see, Schumacher is lapping in about 1 minute 43.8. Barrichello is lapping in 1 minute 42.6, so he's closing up on them.
Well, while we're watching an onboard shot of Jean Alesi down in 6th place, we're missing a great scrap up at the front. Just a few tenths of a second between Hakkinen trying to have a real go at the back of Michael Schumacher all around the racetrack. But our Malaysian producer's chosen to keep us on board with Jean Alesi all out there by himself. Oh well, I'll just have to keep telling you about the second and third place.
I think that word Malaysia on the side pod of the Sauber may understandably have something to do with it.
It's not often you're wrong, Murray, but you're right again.
So lap 33, and here is Irvine. Now, Mr. Producer, let's have a look at Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen, please. He can't hear me, of course, but you never know. A bit of thought transference may do the job. Eddie Irvine out on his own.
We do go out to Malaysia, mine and your voice, Murray, so maybe they can hear us out there somewhere.
So, well, if Eddie Irvine gets a 4th win in this race, it will be a stupefying achievement. Who is he coming up to? It's funny, it's the tail ender.
Genet, must be Genet, yes.
It's got to be Marc Genet. It is Marc Genet in the Minardi, who's about to be lapped, and then the next one would be Alex Zanardi. We've got 14 out of the 22 starters left in the race. The 14th is Fisichella, and now here is Eddie Irvine shaping up to dart out from behind the rear wing of Marc Genet's Minardi, and there in the background you see, for the first time since Martin mentioned it, Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen battling for that 2nd position. Well, we'd like to see some more of that. And Marc Genet courteously moved over. He didn't block Eddie Irvine, or only for a very, very short time. And the Irishman is now through. So that's another problem coming up for Schumacher and for Hakkinen, who are lapping a heck of a lot faster than Genet, something like 3 seconds a lap faster. And they've got to get past them. That'll help Eddie Irvine, who is on his 34th lap out of 56.
Yes, even having to pass a back marker, Irvine still increased his lead by a second that shows you just how much Schumacher is able to hold Mika Häkkinen
Yeah,
up.
he's lapping, you see, Schumacher is lapping a full second slower than Irvine. What is it, James? James?
I've done the maths here, Murray. 7 seconds stationary Häkkinen was. That gives him about 55 kilos of fuel. I don't think it's possible he could have started the race with enough fuel at the start to get it through without refueling again. I think he was on a fast dash, and the idea was to get him ahead of Schumacher. It failed by 1.8 seconds. You saw him come out behind Schumacher. He has to try to pass. But, and Martin will pick this up, I'm sure, apparently there is only one racing line around this track, and these super soft tyres are chucking marbles out left, right and centre. Go offline to try and pass here. You pick that stuff up, your tyres go right off. It's a terribly difficult situation for Häkkinen, but he's got to dig deep, he's got to take a deep breath, and he's got to go for it.
Oh, they've got it in focus now, and Häkkinen right up behind Schumacher, but nowhere near close enough. And let me tell you, if you can't overtake around here in a Formula One car, then there's something wrong with the car, not the racetracks. This is the perfect situation. Slow corner into a long straight with a slow corner at the end, into another long straight with yet another slow corner at the end. It's the place to be overtaking. And I think it is possible into turns 15 and then into turn 1 at the end of the pit straight. But quite clearly, despite Michael Schumacher just trying to hold him up, Häkkinen cannot get through.
And meantime, there's another second advantage to Eddie Irvine, who is now over 11 seconds ahead of this battle that you're seeing between Michael Schumacher in the Scarlet Ferrari and Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren.
You see, Häkkinen doesn't have the luxury that Coulthard had of, OK, Michael, I'm coming through, like it or not, I'm going to barge my way through. Häkkinen cannot afford to risk his front wing or suspension damage on that, otherwise you're going to end up 5th or 6th, or indeed out of the race. Michael knows that well, and so does Mika.
Yeah, Mika has got to get points. He's got, if necessary, he's got to settle for four World Championship points for 3rd place rather than 6 for 2nd, knowing that Eddie Irvine is on 10 for a victory if he can just do another 22 laps.
Just glance up the track a little bit, and you'll see Barrichello once again homing in on this pair. Schumacher is reversing Häkkinen into Barrichello,
who you saw closing up the gap between Häkkinen that you're looking at, and Barrichello, hopefully we'll just see him. There he is! There is Rubens Barrichello. The gap was 3.4 seconds. I suspect it's less now, as a frustrated, probably angry, determined, but can't do anything about it, Mika Häkkinen sits grimly looking at the rear wing of Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. And there is Rubens, closer and closer. The gap was 3.4 seconds. It's now 2.6 seconds.
And looking at the data here, Barrichello has got plenty of straight line speed. So has that McLaren, mind you. Barrichello's certainly got plenty of power in that Ford engine behind him if he can get a sniff at the back of Häkkinen, and of course Michael will make sure that he can be slow on the apexes of the slow corners and really reverse Mika up.
Yeah, so Mika Häkkinen is soon going to be thinking, oh, I've got to get past Schumacher. Oh, I've got to stop Barrichello from getting past me. He's got a double problem, or will have pretty shortly.
So, I mean, if Michael can... Michael, obviously, major role is to defend Häkkinen, defend Irvine from Häkkinen. But if he can get him even further down the points list, then it'll be a job doubly well done.
Absolutely, Martin, you got it there. And we're lap 36, 20 to go. You're looking at the battle for 2nd. Irvine is 12.5 seconds up the road. Barrichello is 2.5 seconds behind Schumacher and Häkkinen. Johnny Herbert in the 2nd Stewart is 5th. Both Stewarts are in the top 5. Now, this is vital for them because the gap between Williams, who are 4th in the Constructors' Championship, and Stewart, who are 5th, is only 2 points. And at the moment, Williams, of course, with only one car running, that of Zanardi, are not in the points. Both the Stewarts are.
Well, some people may look at this and say it's not fair, it's not motor racing. How is Schumacher allowed to hold the McLaren up like that? It is team tactics, it is a team sport. There's a Constructors' Championship and a Drivers' Championship, and I personally think this is perfectly acceptable. Others may say it's not sportsmanlike, But you know, this is a team game. In the good old days, if the lead driver's car broke down, they turfed out the second driver and put him in that car.
I remember Peter Collins, who could have won the World Championship for Ferrari, stepping out of his car to let Fangio take it over and win and become world champion. Now that is true sportsmanship.
Your granddad told you about it, did he, Murray?
I was there. Lap 37, you are watching. Michael Schumacher, second place. Mika Häkkinen, third place. Now they're coming up to Alex Zanardi in the Williams. There he is, in 12th position. Now, Alex is an extremely good-natured, extremely likeable, and I'm sure in this situation, extremely cooperative chap. He's actually battling with Marc Genet for 11th place, believe it or not. The Williams battling with the Minardi. And as I said earlier on, Stewart looking very good to move up to 4th in the Constructors' Championship ahead of Williams. Benetton well out of it, of course. Alexander Wurz is 7th. Fisichella has retired. Here is Schumacher closing on Zanardi with Häkkinen right behind him. This is Häkkinen's chance.
Well, Schumacher not in any hurry, I don't think, to get past Zanardi. And you can see Michael's tactics just cruising along. Has somebody lost a piece of tyre or something?
Yeah, I saw
something floating around in the middle of the racetrack, or a bit of carbon. The car in front of Schumacher locking his wheel. That's the Minardi of Genet again. So they're both past Zanardi. But you saw Michael's tactics. He was in the middle of the racetrack, just taking an easy cruising run into the corner.
Well, it said minus 13 to Michael Schumacher on the board. I can tell Ferrari that he's now minus 15 because Irvine is continuing to stride away, now at the rate of 2 seconds a lap, thanks to what is going on in the track behind him. And it's not just Michael Schumacher driving this tactical race, it's Schumacher and Häkkinen getting through the traffic. And with Barrichello closing still.
And if we're right, and we've been wrong before, Ferrari still have a joker in their hand that Michael Schumacher probably doesn't have to stop again.
Yeah. Now, so Rubens Barrichello is here is Alexander Wurz. This is a replay. Let's Fisichella, I'm sorry. He's got going again as Fisichella. He's down in 13th position. Many laps down.
Well, remember, of course, he tripped over, he ran into the back of Damon Hill in the second corner of the motor race, spent a long time in the pits, and Fisichella there cruising around.
Well, if you are a Ferrari fanatic, and they're all over the world, there's a tremendously strong Ferrari following in Australia, in Canada, in South Africa, all of whom are watching us now. Certainly in Malaysia, where we're being watched, in Britain, where we are being watched. Keep your fingers crossed, because Ferrari are leading, Ferrari are second, Ferrari are on a potential 16 World Championship points. Eddie Irvine is on a potential 10 World Championship points. And if they finish where they are now, McLaren are going to be the major losers, because Ferrari will go into the lead in the Constructors' Championship and Eddie Irvine will go into the lead of the Drivers' Championship with just one race left, Suzuka, Japan, 2 weeks' time, where Michael Schumacher is always magnificent and Eddie Irvine is longing for the chance to show how much faster he is than Häkkinen. Irvine has been saying all the time, if I could just keep my World Championship hopes alive until I get to Suzuka, I'm sure I'll be in a much better position then. Well, if he's leading the championship, he's going to be in a mighty position.
Yes, he's certainly much more than alive. He's really putting Häkkinen completely on the back foot if they finish the race in these positions. Häkkinen's best chance at the moment seems to be some kind of reliability problem from the Ferrari, and recent history suggests the Ferrari has been more reliable than the McLaren, as David Coulthard will confirm standing back in the pits watching this on the TV.
Well, I better not say it, but other people have been saying that Ferrari have been virtually bulletproof on reliability. And if you look at their record for the last few seasons, they have been absolutely superb. Incidentally, they're using the Series 3 engine in the Ferrari in this race, a new Evolution, and it certainly seems to be doing the business. Lap 40,
If you're wondering why Barrichello's dropped back a bit, those two back markers that are following him now, it didn't work out at all well for him. So Barrichello very much lost out in those lapping manoeuvres.
Well, Sauber and Malaysia are doing well in their home race. Alesi is in 6th position, and Pedro Diniz is in 8th place, catching Alex Wurtz's Benetton.
Barrichello making his second stop of the afternoon. Barrichello in the pit lane now from 4th place.
Which means that Johnny Herbert should move up into 4th place, because Barrichello on about a 7-second stop, I would expect, is going to lose extra time, of course, coming into the pit lane, stopping, accelerating and getting out of the pit lane. And Johnny Herbert was only 7.8 seconds behind his teammate, as Alesi also comes into the pits, and just... that is Villeneuve on the right spinning, and Alex Wurtz, and that's not doing Jack Villeneuve's VAR any good at all, and it looks to me as though that may well be his 12th retirement.
Yes, I think that happened a while back, that one, put a lot of grass on the racetrack, but the leaders have already passed that point at least once, and Villeneuve still running, but down in 10th place.
And we are on, or rather they are on, lap 40.
So Coulthard and Frentzen non-scoring. I think this pretty much, well, it does, doesn't it? It puts the championship down now to just 2 drivers.
Oh yeah, and one of them we are looking at the present moment, not in the happiest of positions from his point of view. It is the McLaren driver, Mika Hakkinen, locked up behind, cool, calm and collected, and seemingly fit and totally in charge of everything. Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, crossing the line to complete their 40th lap. Is over 18 seconds ahead, so he's getting towards the point where he can certainly come in again if he has to and not lose the lead. He'd need a minimum of 20 seconds, rather more, I think, to be comfortable about it.
Schumacher is certainly not going to be struggling physically ever anyway, but certainly not today. I mean, he's just swanning around, really. He's really not pushing himself anywhere near his limit. What's bizarre is he's going sort of as slow as he can, really. And you know, if he is one stopping, he could well be right back up there with Eddie Irvine near the end. Despite having spent all the afternoon trying to go slowly.
So what's happening behind them? Well, you've seen Rubens Barrichello come in again. He's the first one of the leaders to have stopped twice. He's down to 6th position, as a result of which Johnny Herbert is up into 4th place. You're looking at 2nd and 3rd now, Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen on their 41st lap. Jean Alesi has moved up a place to 5th. Rubens Barrichello goes down to 6th. Both stewards, however, are still in the points.
Yes, I don't know whether Hakkinen, he certainly appears to me, the way he's driving at the moment, that he's sort of almost accepted the inevitable situation this afternoon. He can't risk the 4 points he's currently going to score by having a wild go. Race leader in the pits, Irvine stopping, and now James.
Eddie Irvine can almost smell this World Championship, guys. Again, he's putting scrub tyres on too. They're obviously working better after the stops than the fresh ones. But the question is, 6.7, would he have been able to do it without the help of Michael Schumacher? That's my question, because there's one point of view that's not been put in this whole debate about Schumacher's comeback.
James.
Down to 3rd goes Irvine.
Yeah, it's just what I was going to say, Murray, carry on.
Down to 3rd goes Eddie Irvine, because Michael Schumacher takes the lead and Mika Hakkinen moves up into 2nd place. So now we're going to see some action. They're on lap 42 out of 56. Irvine, of course, on a minimum fuel load, only a 6.7 second stop. And in comes Jean Alesi from 5th position, which he will lose to Rubens Barrichello.
If they didn't top that McLaren up, I'd be amazed. I'd be interested to understand why not. But at the moment, so we know Irvine's situation. It's a 2-stopper, as we sort of predicted at the beginning of this race. It's the optimum way. We think they filled up, just to reiterate. We think they topped Michael's car up to get him to the end. We don't think they topped the McLaren up to get it to the end. So let's wait and see. Yeah. This is going to be fascinating, this last few laps.
I mean, it's not inconceivable that Hakkinen is just staying out there. He only stopped for 7.2 seconds. Irvine stopped for 6.7 seconds.
for that last stop of his. Incidentally, we're looking at Fisichella in again. But on the 42nd lap in this 56-lap race, the first three, you could almost throw a blanket over them, or you could when we last saw them, with Michael Schumacher up in the lead. There he is, Eddie Irvine in third position. Well, it would be a mighty big blanket, but never mind, a little exaggeration. And Mika Hakkinen will not be able to do anything about Michael Schumacher. Eddie Irvine should close up because he was much quicker than both of them. We're going for a break, but we'll be back, of course. The mechanics are in the pit lane there, but Eddie Irvine has made his last stop.
Williams
They were Williams
there.
people, not Ferrari people, incidentally. We know that Schumacher is not going to come in again. We know that Irvine is not going to come in again. We do not know about Mika Hakkinen. And we have 13 laps to go, including the one that they are on. And at the present minute, 4.4 seconds covers the first three, two of which are Ferraris, one of which is a McLaren. Whatever happens, provided both the Ferraris finish, it's looking good in the Constructors' Championship for Ferrari, and it's not looking at all bad in the Drivers' Championship for Eddie Irvine.
Well, we think Michael Schumacher's not coming back in again. Frustratingly, from this box, a bridge blocks the McLaren pit, and I'm got half an eye around and about because I'm aching to know if that McLaren's got to come in again. Just to reiterate, 6.2 seconds he stopped. James has calculated it, 55 kilos of fuel. We think he should have to have a late splash and go. James, what can you tell us?
Well, Martin, Ferrari brought Eddie Irvine in earlier than I expected, and I think they did it because they thought that Mika Hakkinen was on a two-stopper and has to stop again. And if you seriously think that Mika Hakkinen go to the end, then effectively Ferrari have thrown this race away for Eddie Irvine. I can't believe the amount of knowledge they have about tank sizes that they would do something like that. He must come in, surely. I've done the maths. Oh, well, we'll see, but I just can't see that the tank is big enough. Because the other thing he could have done, I suppose, Martin, is run it a bit lean when he was stuck behind Michael, thinking, oh, well, I know I'm not going to get past him now, and run the thing a bit lean. and then maybe he can go a bit further.
You can save a significant amount of fuel, up to, say, 3 laps in a Grand Prix, by thinking fuel, short shifting, changing at lower revs, that is, using a slightly higher gear when possible. You can do that. I can see one man in the McLaren pit, and he's got all the fire gear on, all the head equipment, suggesting they are expecting another stop, but of course they would keep that all on anyway, just in case during a race.
I'll tell you this, Ron Dennis said yesterday that they'd chosen the tyres for Hakkinen, the harder tyres, with the race strategy in mind. He also said that he wasn't unhappy with Hakkinen's starting position and Coulthard's starting position, which was the second row of the grid, because they had their strategy in mind. Now, you could say, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? But on the other hand, there may be more to it than we thought at the time.
I was just about to say he would say that, wouldn't he, really? He couldn't really say anything else, because the 2 Scarlet cars were occupying the front row of the grid. But it all hinges now, and this is a crucial few laps in this year's World Championship, how much gas is in that McLaren.
Yeah, of course, this is changing things altogether. Hakkinen on 6 points if he's finishing in second place, Irvine on 4 points if he finishes in third place, and that would increase Mika Hakkinen's lead in the World Championship from 2 points to 4 points, with 10 points to be gained at Suzuka. Whatever happens, it certainly looks now as though the World Championship is going down to the wire in Japan yet again, as it did last year, and as it did the year before, and as it did the year before that. And you can't necessarily expect, with 16 World Championship races, for that to happen, as the Sauber is craned off the circuit. So here we are, lap 46, 56 lap race. Now the times are virtually identical. Schumacher 1 minute 41.9, Hakkinen 41.7, P1 to Schumacher. Hakkinen is second, Michael, the board is saying. Eddie Irvine is lapping to within 1/10 of a second at the same speed as Mika Hakkinen, and Michael Schumacher ahead of him, and he's 5.1 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Just for the record, Johnny Herbert is catching Irvine, who is third, and Herbert is fourth. Rubens Barrichello is fifth. Both the stewards have been reliable. Both the stewards are in the points. They look very good indeed for taking that Constructors' Championship fourth place away from Williams. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is not only in sixth position ahead of Jean Alesi after Alesi's 2 stops and Frentzen's 1, but he is catching Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, so Frentzen has finally crept into the points. Suggested he was on a 2-stopper again, but maybe they've refueled that in the middle of the race. Not much activity in the second half of the top 10, so Frentzen may sneak in with a bit of a crafty point, but I don't think it's enough, given his deficit in the World Championship, to keep him anywhere near in contention as we go into the final race of the season.
Top 13, lap 47.
McLaren's coming out. McLaren out into the pit lane, Murray. So
well spotted, Martin. Well spotted. Yeah, I could just see them myself. And Mika Hakkinen then, unless this is a dummy.
No, look in the reflection of the grandstand
well
above
done.
it. You can see them down into the pit lane.
The glass windows above give us a perfect view of the McLaren people underneath. And unless this is a dummy, I have seen people make an indication of a pit stop, and Mika Hakkinen is coming in, no doubt about it. This looks like a first and a second for Ferrari, and it is.
Right, now the problem they've got is Herbert and Barrichello are just 18 seconds, 19 seconds behind, and could well get ahead. I think it's going to be touch and go. Look out, Murray, as he emerges out of the pit lane. I think he's going to lose two places. He's lost 2 places to the Stewart team, both of whom I believe have made, certainly Barrichello has, just maybe Herbert was one stopping. Yeah. He may have lost 2 places to that Stewart team.
Which would be, I hesitate to use the word disaster in commentary, but it would be certainly terribly, terribly bad news for McLaren if Hakkinen had dropped from third for 4 points to fifth for 2.
Well, as soon as Schumacher released Irvine into the lead, that's the job he's been trying to do for the rest of the afternoon, very successfully by the looks of it.
the thinking man's racing driver, Michael Schumacher. Lap 48, Michael Schumacher now leads Eddie Irvine in the Malaysian Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen has made his stop, being caught by Johnny Herbert, who's fourth, and Rubens Barrichello, who is fifth, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in sixth position as we go for a break.
On track, Johnny Herbert in third place, Hakkinen in fourth. Apologies, I made an error before, and Herbert cutting across the grass there badly, but it was just the steward of Herbert that passed Hakkinen during those pit stops. Barrichello's a little further down the road, so it's Schumacher, Irvine, Johnny Herbert here in third place, and Mika Hakkinen chasing him hard to regain that extra World Championship point.
So as Alex Zanardi exits the pit lane, Mika Hakkinen has got to get past Johnny Herbert, but Johnny Herbert is on a terrific high. He won the last Grand Prix at the Nürburgring in brilliant style. It's given him his confidence back. The Stewart car is beautifully set up for this circuit. It's got that very powerful Ford Cosworth engine behind it, and that is the retirement of Jacques Villeneuve from 9th position, and that is his 12th retirement this year in the BAR. But we're on lap 50 in this 56 lap race now, with Schumacher leading, and surely is going to move over and let Eddie Irvine take the victory for the extra 4 World Championship points.
That's a replay, I believe, of the BAR dropping out of the race of Jacques Villeneuve, so no points again for them at the moment. So Villeneuve apparently out of the race from 9th position. Now Hakkinen has got much fresher tyres. Johnny is on a one-stop race, so these tyres have done 22 laps now for him. So Johnny then, I would think, going to be struggling a little bit if that McLaren really gets a run at him.
Well, the question is Schumacher going to honour his promise and move over? And if so, when and where will he do it? Well, where really doesn't matter very much, provided he lets Irvine through, and I can't believe that he's not going to be able to do so. James Allen.
Well, it's the scenario that Michael Schumacher was utterly dreading, but he will play the team game. He's going to let Eddie Irvine through, and I'll tell you why. Because it's better that Eddie Irvine is the world champion with his help than the world champion without his help. The way things are going at the moment, that could easily happen. It lessens the pain for Michael Schumacher. But a word quickly about the McLaren mechanics. I've just left their garage. Their shoulders are down. They look so dejected. They've worked so hard this year, and it's all, the cards are very much stacked against them. It ain't over till it's over, but those cards are well and truly stacked.
Yeah, they all work hard. Every team deserves to win. They all put their everything into it. And I take nothing away from McLaren in saying that. But how the Stewart team have fought, how they have worked, and look at their potential reward now, because the white car in front of the other one is Johnny Herbert and the other one is Mika Häkkinen. And Johnny Herbert is third and Mika Häkkinen is fourth, and they're on lap 51 out of 55.
Yes, Johnny Herbert wants that second consecutive podium of the season, because he just did his fastest lap of the race on the previous one to this, and is really pushing extremely hard. Former teammates, of course, at Lotus, Johnny and Mika, good mates, but Johnny is not going to give up that podium. He'll say, Mika, forget your World Championship, I want to be on that podium.
Yeah, and Johnny's father, Bob, is here, and his mother is here, had a nasty attack of migraine this morning. I hope she's here, and I hope that what is happening is wafted it away as we look at race leader Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari on lap 52. The last race he won was the Monaco Grand Prix this year, and the brilliant German has already had 35 World Championship Grand Prix victories. For Benetton, world champion in 94. For Benetton, with a Renault engine, world champion in 95. And of course for the Ferrari team that he joined in 1996. But Eddie Irvine is 6.7 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, and actually at the present moment he's losing time.
Yes, but he knows the deal. Michael's going to pull over for him. Michael's just going to enjoy himself. Let's just put this in perspective. That man has spent all afternoon trying to go slowly, and he's now leading the race by 6.7 seconds. Megastar.
Yeah, I know. And I'm tempted to say to the people who write the many letters saying to me that I overstate Schumacher's brilliance, have another think after what has been happening today. The Ferrari mechanics there, and Stefania, their excellent public relations lady, and now Irvine is closing the gap. You're right, Martin. Here we go. Down it comes. 3.9 seconds.
Yep, this is it.
And what did he say? In the past, I have waited for the phone call.
Well, yes, but remember, Eddie played a similar role for Michael a couple of years back in Suzuka by darting off into the distance and then falling back and helping out. So it's due to him. It's going to be with a gritted teeth when Michael lets him through, not with a smile on his face. Eddie hasn't been that complimentary about
see you, James.
And but Michael knows he's got to do what he's got to do.
James Allen then in the Ferrari garage as Eddie Irvine remorselessly closes up on the willing Michael Schumacher, soon to lose his lead at Sepang.
Here it is, look, pulling over now, just backing off the throttle. It's for the race lead, but it's not actually the important issue now in this race. Can Häkkinen take Herbert for that extra crucial World Championship point? And there it goes.
He nearly missed it.
The TV man nearly missed it, and Irvine regains the lead. And, of course, the lead of the World Championship if he can make it just 4 more laps, including this one.
So, Ferrari on the dog and bone, rhyming slam for telephone to Michael Schumacher saying, your time has come, Michael. Move over and let Eddie through. Jawohl, and he's done it. Lap 53. Free to go at the end of this one. This is Frentzen, who is in 6th position, who will score a World Championship point, provided he can keep Jean Alesi behind him. And since the Swiss in the Sauber is 18 seconds behind the Jordan, things are looking good for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, which is a lot more than he could have expected, bearing in mind that he started from 14th place on the grid.
But Frentzen, if Irvine wins, Frentzen cannot be world champion, even if he scores 10 points in the last race. And Irvine, I'm just doing some quick mental mathematics here, they'd be equal on points, but Irvine will have won 4 races to Frentzen's 2 in that case. So if it stays like this, Frentzen cannot win the World Championship. Coulthard definitely cannot win the World Championship from there now. So it's a 2-horse race, of which Irvine is much more than a neck in front now.
If things stay as they are, I reckon Eddie Irvine is going to be leading the World Championship by 5 points, which would put him in a very strong position at Suzuka. But then we've seen Ferrari in a very strong position at Suzuka in the past. And remember how Michael Schumacher stalled from pole position at last year's Japanese Grand Prix. But now we're on the 54th lap out of 56 at a Malaysian Grand Prix, which by any measurement is going to be judged an enormous success. Not just because it's put Malaysia on the map in terms of motor racing in the eyes of the world, but because it's produced a magnificent race too.
This is a bit limp. Frenzen's just done a 40.6, which is a fraction off of the race's fastest lap. He suddenly smelt another point, look, and there it is. Barrichello down in 5th place. Frentzen now just 1.8 seconds behind, and Eddie Jordan will be asking a few questions about that. Where did that pace come from with 3 laps to go, Heinz Harold?
Well, 2 wins behind him already this season. Maybe he, like Mika Häkkinen at the Nürburgring, was a bit despondent and suddenly realised that he could do something. And like Mika Häkkinen at the Nürburgring is charging, and there is the result.
Häkkinen's through, sorry Murray, Häkkinen is through. Häkkinen has passed Johnny Herbert and is back into 3rd place.
Well, that's going to make a difference of 4 points instead of 3 points, but the World Championship has been won by half a point in the past, because Niki Lauda won the World Championship from Alain Prost in Portugal in 1984 by half a point, half a World Championship point. It's a complicated explanation about why you get half a point, but I haven't got time to give it now. But anyway, we're on lap 55. This is the penultimate lap, the last lap but one. Eddie Irvine there is leading the race, potentially about to win his 4th Grand Prix this season.
Yes, I'd like to see a replay of it. We haven't seen it on screen at all, but I think Häkkinen outbraked Herbert into the final corner of the lap, turn 15, heading into the pit straight itself. So that's, I believe... Well, he had fresher tyres, remember, because Johnny once stopped. Mika did a late 2, and therefore much fresher tyres.
Great disappointment for Johnny not to finish on the podium, assuming he doesn't. This race is not over yet, and it's going to be a formation finish with Rubens Barrichello now charging in 5th position in the 2nd Stewart, and it looks as though, for sure, as the 2 stewards are going to finish in the points, as the 2 Ferraris start what looks like being their victorious lap in a most incredible tactical, strategical race, with the master cards having been played by Michael Schumacher on his return to Grand Prix racing, having taken pole position by an amazing full second. And he's controlled things brilliantly in this race, to the advantage of his teammate Eddie Irvine, who is going to benefit from it, because Irvine now has got half a lap to go. The winner in Australia, the winner in Austria, the winner in Germany at Hockenheim, who's finished on the podium so many times this year, has only failed to finish once this year at San Marino. And Eddie Irvine is on target for 10 World Championship points. Last corner, victory coming up for Eddie Irvine, and there are the Ferrari technicians.
I think you're willing him on a bit too early there, Murray. Yeah, I think you're half a lap ahead of Irvine. You're going to win this Grand Prix, Murray. Irvine's got several more corners to go yet. He's about 30 seconds now to the end of the lap. This is turn 14, just swanning around like it's an out lap. The first day of a long test session, because although that other Ferrari just behind him, of course, no reason to hurry, because the next player, Mika Häkkinen, 10.4 seconds down the road at the start of this lap.
This is the last corner. This will be a magnificent Ferrari 1-2. Eddie Irvine wins the first Malaysian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher is second. Maximum points for Ferrari. Irvine leads the World Championship. Ferrari lead the Constructors' Championship. And McLaren are not at all happy, as Mika Häkkinen finishes 3rd in the distance.
Michael Schumacher won the Malaysian Grand Prix as far as I'm concerned, and Eddie Irvine got the 10 points, but he's had to play that role in reverse enough times, and I don't think anybody will begrudge him that.
As Johnny Herbert finishes in 4th place, good news for Stewart. Rubens Barrichello comes home in 5th place. Great news for Stewart, because they do now lead Williams in 4th position in the Constructors' Championship. Heinz-Harald Frentzen does take that 1 World Championship point
after a magnificent drive from 14th on the grid for Jordan, with Jean Lacey 7th for Sauber, Alexander Wurz 8th for Benetton, Marc Genet an excellent 9th for Minardi. Zanardi finishes in 10th position in the sole Williams, and Giancarlo Fisichella 4 laps down will be 11th. 50% of the drivers who started finished the Malaysian Grand Prix. Big crowd, well over 60,000 for the first race, and a no doubt elated Eddie Irvine goes to Suzuka with a 4-point lead in the World Championship. And Mika Häkkinen has got to work mighty hard at that last race of the year. Heinz-Harald Frentzen still holds that 3rd position in the championship, and David Coulthard is still 4th, but Michael Schumacher goes ahead of his brother Ralph with the 6 World Championship points he got for Ferrari to 5th position. Ralph for Williams down to 6th position. Now the Constructors' Championship, of course, 16 points for Ferrari and 4 points for McLaren means an increase of 12 points for the McLaren team. Sorry, for the Ferrari team, who now lead the Constructors' Championship according to my mental arithmetic, which is always suspect, by 4 points. Lovely shot, Ferrari flag, Ferrari car, victory in Malaysia. Well, who would have thought after the Nürburgring, when we had that shambolic pit stop where Ferrari couldn't find a wheel and Mika Salo had already come in for a new nose, that Ferrari would recover the way they have?
Yes, 2 crucial moments for me. Coulthard's car. James, what can you tell us?
I'm with Ron Dennis. Martin, Ron, what do you think of that?
Well, it's within the rules, but it's not very sporting. 4 points behind, and all we've got to do is Mika's got to win the next race, and that's the approach we'll have. But there's some very bald tyres on the Ferrari, and that's not the way they're meant to finish the race. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Interesting, thank you very much.
Well, I wonder if that is a pointer of a protest from McLaren. Now, what Ron Dennis was talking about is the fact that these tyres have got grooves in them in order to prevent the drivers driving on slick tyres, which give an advantage because they put more rubber on the track, more rubber, more grip, more speed. I'm guessing, and I really don't know any more than you do because I heard Ron Dennis at the same time as you did, I'm guessing that McLaren are going to put in a protest about Ferrari finishing on illegal tyres.
We'll have to wait and see on that one. I was beginning to say 2 crucial moments there for McLaren. Losing Coulthard out of that game of chess when he was chasing Irvine so hard, and not filling Häkkinen's car up and changing to a one-stopper in the middle of the race, as they did with Michael Schumacher. It cost Häkkinen a possible 2nd place, or a win, really, ahead of Irvine. So 2 crucial moments there for McLaren, but Ferrari played it all spot on. Michael Schumacher, for me, really doing most of the tactics out on the racetrack to perfection.
Yeah, Mika Häkkinen stumps off in the garage, very clearly displeased. Some people not too happy about some of the things that Mika has done under enormous stress, and I'm not taking away from him this season, and he's certainly going to have a great deal more stress now. James Allen, what's the news?
Well, I'm now with Ross Brawn, and a very different expression on your face from Ron Dennis a minute ago. You tell us how you saw the race.
Well, it was a great team race. I mean, motor racing's a team sport, and you saw today Michael took a totally unselfish view of the race, which he said he would do. He came back to help Ferrari, and he's done it in the best possible way today. And Eddie drove a great race as well. I mean, he drove a perfect race.
Ron Dennis said there's some very bald tyres on that Ferrari. He's not sure it's within the rules. What's your response?
I think that's sour grapes.
And Suzuka now. You've got 4 points to lead. More tactical masterstrokes from Ross Brawn at Suzuka?
Well, it's a good question, James. We'll see. But obviously, it's all to play for now in the last race.
Enjoy the champagne.
Thanks.
Well, I keep on saying Formula One just gets better and better, and this is certainly proof. We've now had 15 races this year, Some people regarded the Spanish Grand Prix, which was a processional race, as being dull. I didn't regard it as being dull. There's no such thing as a dull Grand Prix, a Formula One race, as far as I'm concerned. Some people regarded Belgium as being a bit dull. I most certainly didn't. But without doubt, the other 13, for one reason or another, have been absolutely sensational, and increasingly so. That's Corinna Schumacher, Michael's wife, with Jean Todt, the boss of the Ferrari team, next to her.
I notice also Stewart have overtaken Williams in the World Championship. They're up to 4th now in the Constructors, so they're having a great year and just 22 points behind the Jordan team. They can't catch them with one race to go, but certainly there's going to be a bit of tension in the paddock afterwards by the sounds of it, but I have to say I think I side with Ross Brawn there on that. It was good team tactics. They have been used before, and now the drivers are up on the podium.
Yes, indeed they are, in front of a very emotional Ferrari team, and rightly so. Race winner, Eddie Irvine, the new World Championship leader, alongside the double world champion Michael Schumacher, who made his race for him without a doubt. And on the podium there, Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, who is the Prime Minister of Malaysia and the driving force of this race. Italian national anthem. Say in Melbourne that it's a great place for a race, but so is the other M, Malaysia. We've seen a cracker here today. Dr. Mahathir presents the winner's trophy to a jubilant Eddie Irvine. And wrong chap, I'm afraid. Pino D'Agostino, that is, on the right, who is the engine man at Ferrari, the top man of the engine department, rightfully getting the Constructors' Award, as Michael Schumacher gets the second one, and Mika Hakkinen takes a little time out before he receives his third place award. Not the happiest trophy he has ever had, but what a turnaround here in Malaysia, at a magnificent racetrack in magnificent weather conditions, and the champagne again flows.
Thank you, Murray. Interesting body language there from Mika Hakkinen. A super race. Sorry about some of the coverage. That is outside our control, as you probably know.
Welcome, gentlemen. The top 3 finishers in the inaugural Malaysian Grand Prix: Eddie Irvine, Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen. Eddie Irvine, you've been saying for a couple of races that Ferrari need Michael back. Michael's back. You've got the perfect result. How do you feel?
It's fantastic. This guy's depressing. Not only is he the best number 1, he's also the best number 2. You know, I don't know what we got to do with him, but it's going to be more difficult next year when I've got to fight against him. No, I just had to make sure I didn't make any mistakes and run a pace that I could run at. My car was very sharp on the turning, and I just was very, very worried I was going to spin, especially to his fast section. So I just had to be very careful and make sure I didn't make any mistakes. And Michael basically did the hard work for me.
Now, when you came out after your second stop and you were a few seconds behind Mika and slowly losing pace, did you know Mika was going to stop again, or do you think it was all over?
Well, we thought we knew he was going to stop. If he hadn't have done, we would have been very surprised. But that's, you know, he went so long, but we knew that's probably the strategy he was going to have to do. He probably thought he was quicker than us, but he was going to have to stay out longer. So we pretty much assumed that, and we read it correctly.
Thanks, Eddie. Michael, a unique strategy, a one stop on the softer tyres. Was that decided from the start or changed as you went along?
We had the option, to be honest, and we took the option of the one stop. Even so, I actually thought we would go for a two stop, but afterwards I'd say it worked out just perfectly to do the one stop.
Now, you played the perfect number 2, but about a few laps in, you let Eddie through, and then David got past as well. Was that an accident or part of the plan?
No, it wasn't part of the plan, because I knew I had to go for a very long first stint, and somehow I wanted to protect my tyres, and I didn't want to wheel spin them too much, so I went fairly slow out of the first corner, not expecting David to dive down to the inside, but he did, and we touched each other, which had some consequence for me later on. I had a bit of a damaged car, but after he stopped, obviously, the situation was a lot more easy.
Now, when you came in at the end of your first stop, your tyres seemed completely destroyed. How did you manage to control the pace so well?
Good question. I mean, first of all, I'd say the team has done a great job. I mean, everybody criticised the team of not developing the car, but at Nürburgring things could have been proven. This time we were able to prove how good our car is, and therefore it's thanks to the team. I mean, we won to a finish. I don't know how different were our lap times, but I guess they were pretty much together. And it's simply the car is doing well.
Thank you, Michael. Mika, on the podium, you looked absolutely exhausted. Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I feel now okay. I didn't feel a couple of minutes ago. You know, it was so, you can imagine, it was the hardest race what I ever done in my life, and it was the race where you have to just go flat out, you know, and those guys obviously they did brilliant tactics. You know, I cannot blame them. And they did a good job, and they won the race, and Michael was second. So obviously for me it was just pushing fast as I could and try to overtake Michael was always risky, because it was very slow actually in high-speed corners, and then when we went to a straight line, it was quite easy to accelerate in the exit of the corner, so it was impossible to overtake.
Now, we saw you on the inboard camera gesticulating a couple of times behind Michael. How frustrating was it to be stuck behind him for lap after lap after lap?
It's just a hard job, you know. You can imagine, you know, your car is sliding all the time, and I experienced that Michael was not consistent all the time in a different corners, so it was always you have to be careful what's going to happen. Is he going to break there or surprising places, and that's why obviously you have to put the maximum concentration not to run back into him. And overtaking maneuvers, I suppose I did not have even a chance to try to overtake him.
Now, you scored a very important overtaking manoeuvre when you got past Johnny, because it means you're just 4 points behind Eddie going into the next race, the last race of Suzuka for the championship. Do you still feel confident you can win?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I suppose it would be crazy not to think about that way. I'm confident in Suzuka and went well last year over there. So I'm not feeling at all we lost the championship. There is still one race to go.
Mika, thanks. Eddie, looking forward to Suzuka, it's well known it's your favourite track. I mean, how many times have you won there before in previous formulae?
It was never actually a great circuit for me when I was in Japan. I think I only won there once. Bridgestone were always the big strong tyre at Suzuka, and I was always on Yokohamas or Dunlops, so it was always a really tough circuit for us to win on. And I remember we won once, and it was a bonanza, to be honest, to win there, because normally we won at the really slippery circuits like Mine and places in Sugo and places like that.
Now, looking for both championships now, you're 4 points ahead, Ferrari are 4 points ahead, you've got Michael back, you must think you're going to win them both.
We have the potential to, you know, as Michael says, the car has improved big time. With Michael back, it's a big bonus. You know, we have all the places, you know, we have all the right pieces, we just got to put them in the right place. You know, it's up to us now. We made the start today, that's what we needed to do, and then we controlled the race. If we can do the same in Suzuka, it'll be a great day for the Tifosi, that's for sure.
Eddie, thanks. And now from Michael and Mika, a word in your own languages, please. Michael.
Ja, ich weiß eigentlich nicht, was da jetzt groß zu sagen soll. Ich meine, das hat jeder mitbekommen, dass Ferrari zur alten Stärke zurückgefunden hat. Und ich glaube, deswegen darf man dem Team ein großes Kompliment machen. Strategiemäßig haben wir alles so ausgespielt, wie wir es ausspielen konnten. Ich glaube, dass keine unfairen Aktionen dabei waren, sondern dass auch harte Zweikämpfe dabei waren zwischen mir und David. Das Auto hat von Anfang bis Ende bis auf eine Kleinigkeit gut gelegen. Nachdem ich mit David zusammengestoßen bin, ein bisschen hatte ich mir den Frontflügel verbogen. Aber das hat nicht so viel ausgemacht. Also alles in allem, Auto ist zuverlässig und wir schauen natürlich jetzt nach vorn, um in Suzuka die nötigen Punkte zu holen.
Thank you, Michael. And Mika.
Voisi olla pettynyt kyllä tietysti, mutta sitten tavallaan kun ajattelee, että mä pääsin Johnista lopussa ohitse, niin se saa mulle pari pistettä. Eli ero nyt on 2 pistettä, mennään nyt seuraavaan kilpailuun, joten kaikki on mahdollista vielä, että ei tässä ole mitään menetetty. Positiivinen mieli kuitenkin loppuisi. Tässä olisi voinut käydä huonomminkin. Ehkä toisella taktiikalla olisi saatu paremmin.